It's about that time. It's Thursday, so happy it's Thursday, aren't you? Tell me, aren't you so happy it's Thursday? Right. So, what is happening in the world of affairs, current affairs, politics, news? Well, again, I will point to the single biggest thing that has happened internationally in the last few days is the jaw-dropping announcement by Trump that the U.S. would take over the Gaza Strip, as in seize control permanently of it, raze it to the ground, rebuild it completely into a high-end luxury seaside resort, and then have people who want to live there or spend time there be welcome there, as long as they are not sponsors of or supporters of terrorism. So those days of terrorism in Gaza are rapidly coming to an end, because the U.S. has basically just declared that Israel won the war, and Hamas lost the war, and Iran lost the war, because Hamas and Iran are the ones doing all the terroring. And it was long and obvious to me that this would happen. I told you guys at the beginning, literally on October 7th, I told you guys this is not going to end the way you think, because we've seen too many times Israel be forced to not accept victory, and too many times forces from the outside have pressured Israel to not demand a complete and total unconditional surrender from its enemies. And even this time, we didn't see Hamas officially surrendering and admitting defeat. So what did Trump do? He came in and threw in a monkey wrench and said, hey, we're going to take over. Game over. By default, that means Israel wins. Hamas doesn't even need to surrender. And people who think Americans aren't going to be able to get out 2 million from Gaza, really, you think that America can't remove 2 million people from Gaza? Okay. The Russians removed millions from Kallenberg. Now they call it Kaliningrad since the end of World War II. Millions of Germans moved just like that. The U.S., or rather England, moved millions of Germans out of Sudetenland with the French. All right, they moved millions of Germans from there at the end of World War II to separate the sides. And it's been like that since then. There's been no issue, no war since then, right? These things can happen. These things have happened, right? You think that the U.S. doesn't have the force to do it? No, the U.S. has more than the required force to move a couple of million people. This is not a problem. Also, keep in mind, the U.S. is going to probably offer financial packages to people who leave Gaza. Like, you get a house in this other country, like a decent house. In some cases, a very nice house. Some people will probably be getting hundreds of thousands of dollars to move and to leave Gaza. And most of them will take it happily, because they'd rather have hundreds of thousands of dollars and a nice house in some country that isn't some war-torn shithole like Gaza is. They'd rather have a nice life for themselves or for their children, away from all that stupid terror and jihadi bullshit. Even if most people in Gaza at the moment support Hamas, if the offer is on the table in front of them, would you rather live in a nice place in peace and prosperity with your kids, or return or stay in this hellhole until you die, and your kids will live and die in this hellhole too. Most of them will take the money in the nice house and the peace and the prosperity. They don't want to live in a hellhole, and they don't want their kids to live in a hellhole. And the only reason they support Hamas in Gaza right now, other than the fact that they've been brainwashed to do it for so bloody long, is also because they don't have any other options on the table. No Arab nation has ever offered them, hey, why don't you come here and live nicely, give you nice houses and things. But now they suddenly might. And who would fund that? Yeah, probably the US will fund that. And that is the cost of being the biggest empire on the face of the earth with the most firepower of any arsenal in history. Okay? That is part of the power of being an empire, and that is part of the cost of being an empire with, by the way, soft power, meaning money and influence, that is far greater than all of its arsenals put together. Because as vast as the US arsenal is, it is far more powerful with its soft power. Things like it does with USAID, which, yes, recently got apparently closed. But that's not the only thing that the United States does in terms of soft power. Okay? And that's a whole other debate about whether or not USAID should be closed or not, and whatever. I'm not going to get into that in this debate. Not debate. Talking myself. Soliloquy. But Trump changed the game. Look, here's the thing. When he said the U.S. will take over Gaza, to be honest, it wasn't new in the sense of nobody has ever suggested that some foreign power take over Gaza. Israel suggested to Saudi Arabia to take over Gaza and turn it into a seaside casino strip, vacation resort spot. They also suggested to Egypt to take it back multiple times. Egypt always said no. The Saudis said no. The difference is, what Trump did is it's the first time that a sitting president of the United States uttered those words. The United States will take over Gaza. We will take over Gaza. We will take it over. Whatever words he said. That is historic and game-changing. And when I say it's game-changing, I mean it has already changed the landscape. And full stop. That is it. Game over. Now Hamaskins reject it all they want and make noise all they want and gather their little demonstrations in New York City and London and Berlin and Paris, wherever they want around the world, and on college campuses throughout the useful idiot world. Sure, they can do that. Do some propaganda and make their little noise. Yeah, we're not even in Gaza. Sure you're not. But then when you see the people in Gaza all signing on the dotted line in some months or a couple of years from now, willfully lining up to get free housing, decent chunk of change in some country that will be friendly to them, and they will get to have citizenship in that country, hopefully, because keeping them as refugees does not solve the problem. That only continues this myth of Palestinian refugee problem. And it is a myth. Well, when you see those people signing those documents and willfully signing away their rights to live in Gaza in exchange for a very nice house and a nice comfortable life somewhere else, that's it. There's no question about it. Right? By then, they will have already internalized the fact that they lost, even though, and they already have, after this news broke that Trump said the U.S. is taking over, all right, they are now trying to raise holy hell about it because how dare he, blah, blah, blah. How dare he did it. you don't like the consequences of fucking around and finding out, then my advice to you is to not fuck around. This is a consequence of fucking around. This is the finding out part that we've been warning you about here in Israel. This is the finding out part. You don't like it? You shouldn't have fucked around. It's really that simple. Good people fuck around all the time too. So it's not like, oh, they're only bad people who fuck around. No, good people fuck around too. And they find out also. I just spent a good amount of time taking care of some things related to some good people that fucked around and found out. Completely different issue. Totally different thing, but I'm exhausted. I need to get some rest. I haven't slept a wink. I didn't think this was going to happen last night, but it did. Haven't been... Anyway. Literally had to get up in the middle of what I was doing and unexpectedly go, and doesn't matter. The point is, good people FAFO, bad people FAFO. Whenever you FAFO, the foe usually ain't as fun as the fa. That's all I'm saying. Be careful all the fa. To avoid the foe, don't do the fa. You can't do the foe. And that said, I'm going to go try to get some rest. And then do the other things I got to do. But for now, on to other things that I have to do before I can even try to get the rest. But anyway. Yeah, but so that wound down weirdly. But yeah, the bottom line of this video is what Trump did 2 days ago when he met with Netanyahu and then announced in public saying the U.S. would take over Gaza. He declared victory for Israel, and he declared defeat for Hamas and Iran. You may not perceive that to be the case, but that is what he did. Now, whether that plays out or not is, first of all, a separate issue. And the way I see it, it already happened because it's a matter of perception. Right? And they're going to accept the status quo, the new status quo, whether they like it or not. And they're not going to like it for a while. In fact, some of them may never like it. But ultimately, they will accept it. Because really, they have no choice. It's either accept the new reality, or very possibly get wiped off the face of the earth by the United States. I don't really think that Gaza is full of people who actually want to be wiped off the face of the earth by the United States. They may say it all the time because when they're just fighting against Israel, oh, it's just one little country of Jewish people and they've been so brainwashed into believing Jews are whatever bad thing that they don't think they could ever lose a fight against Israel, even though they constantly lose fights against Israel. But against the U.S., I think they know better. I think they realize in their heart of hearts, yeah, we don't have a choice now. We lost this fight. We made a big mistake. Yes, cousin. We made a very big mistake. Indeed, you did. You made a very big mistake. And the price, the consequence of your actions is exactly what's happening right now. It just really is that simple. Whether you like it or not. And I know you probably don't like it, because why would you? Because it's not fun to find out that you fucked around and you lost. But that is what happens when you fuck around. You find out the thing you were hoping to avoid has come true because of your stupid actions. It's not like this was, oh no, such a shocker that, oh no, how could Hamas ever end up in this situation? No, this was patently, obviously going to happen. Like, there's no question about it. This was a no-brainer. It may seem obvious to you now. To me, it was obvious the whole time, which is why I told you on October 7th, the war is not going to end the way you think. I told you that then. Whether you believe me or not is a different issue. I gave you the heads up. You knew it was coming. You denied it to yourself, but you did have fair warning. You did have advance notice. You knew this was coming. There was no denying that this was going to happen. This was the inevitable. And now it has passed, and Trump has said the words he said. By fiat, meaning by the power vested in him, by the authority of the most awesome arsenal ever assembled on the planet, word is bond. And if the United States says that the little tiny Gaza Strip is going to be owned by the U.S., I got news for you. It's going to be owned by the U.S. People are saying, oh, it's just a negotiating tactic. He's just blustering. Yeah, maybe. Maybe not. Because this really is the first time in decades that anything stagnant proposals that have made no forward progress because there's been one particular side that was absolutely resolved never to actually end the bloody conflict. So as a result, there could be no forward progress. But now you have the most powerful army in the world at the orders of the President of the United States in the world that are going to do his bidding because he is the commander-in-chief. And if he orders them to go and raise Gaza to the ground and rebuild it, that's what's going to happen. And the people that live there, well, get used to it or not, this is what happens when you FAFO and you do the wrong thing, like launch war after war after war after war, using terrorism as your strategy and your tactic and your goal. This is what happens. We warned you for decades. You didn't listen. Now it's time to pay the piper. Peace. Shalom.